Well, this morning I spoke about restoration of faith, and during the question and answer session, and then on to number of people came up to me, asked questions, and asked for prayer. And at that point, I thought maybe I just need to bring another message which would dovetail with the one which I preached earlier. So, in your note, you would find that one which I'm not going to touch. So in your note, you'll find an empty page. That's the one you need to follow, right? With your pen and the book. So I spoke about faith, but I'm going to talk about faith and patience. Because sometimes people think that faith is always instant. Yes, it has an element, an aspect of instant. But some things we receive it in faith with a lot of patience. Are you with me? Hebrews chapter 6 verse 12 says, "We do not want you to become lazy, but to imitate those who through faith and patience inherit what has been promised." Say faith. Oh, no. That was not with faith. Okay, say faith. Okay. Say patience. The faith was louder than patience. That's an indication of where we stand at the moment. Yeah? We love the faith thing. Patience, wait. Let's see. How many of you know that story when Jesus was walking in the streets and a lady came to him and she had an issue of blood? And she pressed through many difficult situations and touched the hem of his garment. And Jesus turned and looked at the disciples and said, "Who touched me?" And some of the disciples said, "What a question. Everyone is touching you. What is there in so special? Who touched me?" He said, "No, someone touched me with faith." And this lady, almost with fear, came up to him. And he said to her, "Your faith has made you whole." Right? Now 12 years of suffering was removed just like that. That's an instant faith in action. Jesus was moving forward. This lady reached out and almost fearfully touched the hem of his garment. And as a result of that, she received healing. We love that kind of thing. Many years of prolonged sickness and situations that are not happening, suddenly something happens. And if that happens, wow, that's a response. But Bible does not talk only about that kind of faith. Bible does talk about faith and patience. Faith, your faith has made you whole, is an amazing statement. 1 minute suffering, pain, bondage, next minute complete freedom. Faith to receive now is exciting and an impressive stuff. Faith and patience is a strange combination, and God is not ducking that issue either, and we mustn't duck it. Yeah, so we want to just press on and see what the Bible has to say in this. These two words didn't necessarily expect to find it together. Maybe we think that when faith arrives, patience is no longer required. Now that's not what it says. We are encouraged not to become lazy. Lazy in what? The writer of Hebrews says, "We do not want you to become lazy." What is that laziness which is talking about? But he says, "But to imitate those who through faith and patience inherit what has been promised." Now, the book of Hebrews has covered a number of things, but chapter 11 talks about heroes of faith. Heroes of faith. And the Bible is the writer of Hebrews is encouraging us not to be lazy when it comes to our faith. The problem with us is when things don't happen according to our expectation, we become lazy. We become dull. We lose our faith in that particular thing that we pray or ask God for. We have to have patience to put up with something unwanted. All right? When faith comes, surely there is no cue for patience to leave. It is no longer needed. That's not what we're saying. Faith has solved this problem, and I think we must understand that in Hebrews 6:12 tells us that to imitate those who through faith and patience to inherit the promise. Faith doesn't mean that it is always now, but Bible also teaches that faith is to wait. So I'm going to look at 4 situations from the Bible. The first one in Hebrews 11. It says, by faith, the walls of Jericho fell down. Amen? Walls of Jericho fell down. Now that was, the walls of Jericho falling was an instant act of, on that day. So imagine, this is what God had asked Joshua to do it. I want you to walk around the wall of Jericho 7 days. How are you supposed to walk? How? Silent. Can you imagine that you're part of Joshua's team? First, Joshua is actually calling all the leaders. See, God has given this place to us and he has asked us to do something. Yes, Joshua, we are with you. And he said, by the way, we are supposed to walk around Jericho. Yeah, we are ready for it. Come on. What do you want me to do? So he said, yeah, we are supposed to walk. By the way, you're not supposed to say a word. Woo. So you actually walk around. I wish it was so small. It wasn't. It was a big thing. Going around, not saying a word. And they come home. The wives would have probably asked, so what was it like? How was the walking? He's not saying anything. He's saying, what to tell you? We didn't say a word. We were told not to say a word. So, but what others said? No, nobody said a word. So they went around. Day 1, day 2, day 3. By now, I think they would have actually felt that, I don't know what this Joshua, that fellow was mad, this fellow is double mad. Who? Moses. They would have thought like that. And they walked around, and on the 7th day, he said, now blow the trumpet, give a shout. Now imagine somebody had no clue about what is happening and woke up that morning and said, oh, what are these men doing? They were far off in the camp, maybe not having full idea of what has happened. And they came and said that, looked around, these people are all ready to walk. And they went around, just give a shout, and the wall came down. And he would think, oh, that's faith. But not forgotten actually what happened with these men who walked around 7 days in total silence. Now leave alone that group. In it, there were 2 men. One was Caleb. The other one was Joshua. For them, it was not 7 days. For them, it was 40 years of waiting. Are you with me? For some, it could be on the 7th day, came and saw, shouted, wall collapsed. For some, it is 7 days of silent marching around the fort and the wall, and it finally came down. But Joshua and Caleb, it was 40 years of waiting. Now, when we talk about Joshua generation, how many of you actually associate with that story? Actually, Joshua generation is not only taking the land, but it is also taking the land in patience. Hello? Taking the land in patience. For Joshua, been seeing all that what is happening with Israel, 40 years, he saw many things, isn't it? He never gave up. Now he had moments of anxiety and fear and questions, and God kept encouraging him. And we will receive that kind of encouragement, not necessarily the answer. As we move along, there will be encouragement will come along the way, but not necessarily the answer immediately. But one day, Whether it is 40 years, whether it is 7 days, whether it's on the seventh day, the answer will come. So when we talk about faith, Joshua generation, we must include that we are a Joshua generation. We are called to inherit the promises of God. And there are prayers sometimes come with, songs that have been sung. We are a Joshua generation. Joshua generation is not only to take hold of the land, but also patiently taking hold of the land. Then the other example, there are 3-4 examples that I want to bring from the Bible. The number 2 in your examples that you can look at is the story of Abraham. In Abraham's story, he's arguably the best person to associate with faith. His faith demonstrated amazing patience. When God called him from his father's house, and he had no idea where he would be going, but he set out for a journey to almost like an unknown God. He had never heard about this. He heard the voice and he chose to follow him. And his nephew Lot also decided to go with him. Of course, his wife. And many, many years, God made amazing promises to Abraham. Your sons will be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. But he could not find anything happening. For years, nothing happened. And people sometimes think that waiting is wasted. Let me just say this to you. Waiting is not wasted when you wait on God. A day will come. God is never late for anything. We try to fix God according to our clock, our calendar, and we think that he has not come because he doesn't operate according to our calendar. He holds the time in his hand. And we must understand that this is how God sees. And now the problem with the generation that we live in, we are into this press button generation. How many of you are familiar with that? Press button. Those days, gone are those days where when you go to a mall or any place, in those days when malls were not there, when you go to a restaurant, you order a cup of tea and you get nice coffee. They do it from a distance. It's a kind of special skill. One glass is down, the other glass is up, and it comes zoop, zoop, and then nice frothing and all that tea or coffee is to come. Now you go and you press the button, you get espresso. Now that espresso culture has come into church as well. And if the pastor prays and nothing happens, what do? Change the pastor. Right? Now we all, sometimes we look at the television channels, God TV, Daystar, and those preachers come in fancy suit and boot and all those kind of things. When you look at them, you feel that is how it should be. Our local churches are far, far different than that. We mustn't shape our churches looking at the television screen. I say this to our people because they all show things after much editing and adding and everything. They show something which is wonderful. I'm not saying things are not happening there, but sometimes we can have a very unrealistic expectation, and our local church band doesn't look like that. Our backdrop doesn't look like that. Our screen and graphics doesn't look like that, and we feel very frustrated. We feel very unsatisfied in that sense. I think there is patience, that we must have patience. We must wait on God for that. So this press button generation is such a crazy thing. I think maybe 10 years ago, there's something which that we never, that thing was never part of our life. It has now become an important part of our life. You know what? You just download an app or something and it goes in round and round. Have you seen that thing which is going Wi-Fi? It's a signal that is showing that is trying to catch the signal or trying to download something. How many of you feel impatient when the thing doesn't download quickly? A whole lot of people at the back. Those are the younger generation because they live in this world. That kind of situation. It is so, it has become part of our life. In those days, earlier, when we go to a house, first of all, they ask you, and if you're going to stay in a house, going to spend a night or two, when guests come, they said, would you like to have some water, a cup of tea? And as you kind of just relax, and they said, anything to eat? These days, come in, please come in. There's water, tea. This is our Wi-Fi password. Oh, as soon as the Wi-Fi password comes, as if like everything has now come in life. Satisfied, deeply satisfied. You look at the face of the person, Wi-Fi password is connected, internet is connected. Now I'm well connected to the world. And unfortunately, the same culture has actually come into the church as well. Now, talking about this press button culture, how many of you are familiar with these high-rise building? We have many in Mumbai, and I'm sure you've been to one of those, or a 5-star hotel, or these big business park. The lobby, as soon as you enter the lobby, it has got number of lifts. You seen that? And you go crazy, like, you don't know which lift you must go. And the only one lift will take you. I mean, you can only get into one lift. But if you are in a hurry, what you do is you stand there. There are 4 lifts, and you're standing in the middle. You press one button, and it's taking time, and you press the next one, and you press the other one. And sometimes there are arrows that to go up and down. You want to go down from a floor, and you, even because you're in a hurry, you even press the button to go up. And you press both the buttons. All the buttons are pressed. You're waiting for one lift to open the door. Are you with me? Now, as soon as that is opened, you get into one lift, and then you go to the place where you want to go. I have seen that. I've seen that. I have done it. But there are some lifts, it is unfortunately once you get into, we had one lift in our building. You get into the lift and press the button, and you don't know whether it's going up or down. It used to stay there. And it used to irritate me because, sometimes you want to really get into the 3rd floor. Our meeting was at the 3rd floor, and he said, my goodness. And the lift is, it is ultra slow motion. You don't know whether it is going, it's just like that. And I gave up on traveling by that lift completely, because there's something that has picked up momentum in the past few years, and everything happens. Speed has become a vital part of our body, in our life. And I want to say this to you, friends, that is not very helpful when you have to exercise faith and patience. It will not help you to inherit things. Abraham had to wait patiently for the things that God has promised. He has made many mistakes. He's not been, I thought about Abraham, and I said, if Abraham, he nearly traded his wife 2 times for his own safety. Such person, he will never be part of my leadership team. That's for sure. But God kept working with him. And God is a God of patience. If you can stand on your head and say that why it's not happening, you can get upset with your wife, children, church, workplace, everything, wherever you are. But some things will only happen, you can only inherit it with patience. Case 3 is the life of Elijah. It says in James chapter 5 verse 17, Elijah was a man just like us. All right. It says Elijah that he prayed, and there was he said there was no rain, and then when he prayed, rain came again. I feel Elijah was not a man like us. I'll tell you why. He prayed for rain at one point, and the sky stayed blue. He prayed again. Not a cloud could be seen. So he prayed again. This time, his servant would have actually brought him sunglasses. He said, put this and maybe this will help you. No change in the atmosphere. More prayer. Still nothing happened. come on, Elijah, you have to give up this. This is not something that you have to do. You could have given up and said that, forget it, I'm not going to pray this anymore. I have seen Christians giving up on praying once, twice, thrice. Like I shared this morning, that lady came for prayer. I gave up after one or two times. I said, no, I don't want to pray. I don't know why she's kept coming. It was her faith that actually opened my eyes. And we must understand that even similar story from Elijah's life, he could have actually given up. He persevered and he saw, and not getting tired, not just giving up. And one day, at that one point, the cloud formed and the rain came. So some things we have to actually have patience. Another case, there's sometimes the writer of Hebrews actually warns us of a greater danger in Christian life. That is, if you don't enjoy immediate result, we tend to throw in our confidence and say that we drag our feet, we lose our joy, simply go through the motions with no genuine expectations. That is not Christian life. We are called to walk in faith. Our Christianity becomes a routine, dull and faithless, and we become sluggish. There are people, I'm not saying that, we've been hearing words right from the beginning of this camp, and let the dry bones come alive. A lot of messages on faith has been preached. Right now, you may not be in that kind of position. I do know that when we come down from the mountain, when you hit the realities, these things will come. So this word that is coming to you, maybe tonight, you need to just tuck them. You may not immediately need it, but he said, I'm going to keep this close to my heart, so that some things, when it doesn't happen, I'm going to exercise my patience, not just faith alone. The challenge is to make sure that faith remains faith even when we experience delay. We must not slip into a neutral gear, right? Keep the gear of faith fully engaged. Especially if you are climbing the mountain, if you are a four-wheel drive vehicle, it just all wheels are gripped with that. Therefore, it can climb the steep mountain. Because if it's on a neutral gear, it doesn't help. If it is on the fourth gear, it doesn't help. It's on the first gear, it really grips the vehicle. Because sometimes when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Right? So we need to have faith engaged all the time. There's one more case that we want to look at. It is the life of Joseph. When Joseph first received that special garment from his father, and then he had this wonderful dream that his father and brothers, they all bowing down to him. I shared that this morning. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. His special coat and the distinguished, all the dreams and visions didn't help him. In fact, he actually faced some serious setbacks in his life. Despite having a special garment, despite having visions and dreams, he faced some devastating setbacks in his life. And one would say that it is time to actually ditch the dream. One would say that it's time to give up all that what God has done for spoken over my life. Sometimes we can feel that. I have felt that few times in my life. There was a great passion and a zeal to do something for God. I went and approached my leader at that time, said, I really like to quit my job and serve God. And he said, wait. And then after some time, he chose another person for the same job, to go for the year of training. I thought to myself, why did he do that? So I went and, wanted to clarify that. I went to him and I said, I wanted to quit my job and I want to serve God. When I came to you, you said, wait. But then you sent him. Why? He said, that's why. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, you're not ready yet. I didn't like it. It just hit me. And I had an option at that point. I said, forget it. I don't want to do anything with this. I will get back to my job, busy with my job, no more training, no more really taking the name of serving God. That's what I thought. But I was brought into this conviction almost immediately that that is not the right attitude. Stay focused. Don't quit. Don't. I knew that God has called me. I knew that God has spoken to me to come and serve Him. But I had to wait patiently. Like Joseph, he could have actually easily thrown his dream away. And after facing those challenges, Joseph was put in prison. You remember that story? And there were two men also from Pharaoh's palace. Uh, they were also put in the prison, and they had a dream. Now Joseph heard about this dream, and he had an amazing, if you read Genesis, the book of Genesis, the story, you will read an amazing word that came from Joseph. When he heard about these people's dream, he said, tell me your dream. Tell me your dream. Now Joseph could have thought and said to these guys, when he heard about the dreams, he said, dream, please don't talk about dream. You see, dream has brought me this far. This is what dream has done to me. Don't ever go near that word dream. He could have discouraged them. He could have said that, I had dreams. I thought this. I had, see where I have landed. Please, where you are today, just be it as it is. Don't even talk about dream. That's what he could have done. Instead, he looked at those men and he said, tell me your dream. And they told his dream. And he interpreted the dream for them. And they got out of the jail. He thought that they will help him. But it didn't happen immediately. But that didn't deter him from actually pressing on in God. What are the dreams that God has given you and had not yet been fulfilled? I know there are people, men and women seated in this room. God has spoken things over your life. And you think, I don't think it will ever happen. Can I just encourage you, brothers and sisters, tonight, bring those dreams back to life. Bring those dreams back to life. I'm not saying that just it would happen right away. But don't be in a posture to saying that dreams, I'm done with it. No man can actually give you dreams. God gives dreams. I have had number of dreams in my life. Number of dreams. Some of it, I've seen the fulfillment of it. Some, I haven't seen the fulfillment of it yet. But I'm not saying that I'm desperate. I've written it down. I have a book which is written all my dreams and visions and the prophetic word over my life. And sometimes I go back and say, oh, this has already happened. I haven't realized it, but in His time, He makes all things beautiful. In His time. And that is something that is to do with the whole realm of patience. Joseph, I don't know whether he realized that it is all about patience, but when we read his story, we realize it is actually patience and faith and patience. We all have faith. Some of us have actually given up on patience. You can't wait anymore. And one area is actually your dream. And Joseph said, tell me your dream. What you should do is, if you're really not given up on the dreams, I would encourage you, revive those dreams. If you remember the dream, tonight, go and tell somebody, you know what, I had this dream. And as Vinu was sharing this, I was reminded of this dream that God gave me many years ago. I haven't seen the fulfillment of it, but I'm going to believe one day God will make this happen. And I know many people here, you will recall on this day and said, at that camp in Gopalpur, my dreams were revived. On that day, I received faith again to believe God will fulfill that which He has promised. He did it for the Israelites, particularly Joshua and this people, Joshua and Caleb, 40 years they waited. And finally, the walls of Jericho came down. A new generation was part of that. But they also had to have patience. Abraham, many, many years of waiting. But finally, he was known as the father of faith. How? Because he waited patiently. There are few things in Abraham's life you will see that happened instantly. In fact, almost every single thing that God promised to him, he had to wait. But he is still called as a father of faith. Elijah prayed for rain once, twice, thrice, and kept on praying until the rain came. Didn't give up. I want to encourage you not to give up. Joseph could have given up, but he didn't give up. He wanted to inherit things with faith and patience. So, do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. Joseph's freedom from the past gave him the liberty to enjoy God's promises of peace in the present. Now, patience and endurance is not about daydreaming. See, some people say that when I finish my studies, when my children get, they all settled, when I get married, when I get a job, when I have a house, I will do all these things. I think we make a mistake if you go that route. It's not that God is going to reject you if you do that. If you make a mistake if you do that. There are things that we must do when God asks us to do. And it is not just done according to our convenience or circumstances. It must be done when God asks us to do. Therefore, Hebrews chapter 12, 1-3 says, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance and the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and the perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. We heard about the story of Joshua, Caleb, Abraham, Elijah, and David. These men had their own struggles, though they achieved things. But our greatest hero is Jesus himself. He endured shame. He endured suffering at the cross. And that's why it says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance. Not run to press the button and get things done immediately. Run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and the perfecter of our faith. There's a gap between pioneering and the perfection. It's a long journey, my friend. It would take years sometime. It would take months, maybe weeks. But there is a gap, pioneering and perfecting. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. No one else has known comparable suffering than Jesus. So let us run the race looking to him, full of faith and confidence. After we have done the will of God, we will receive what is promised. You are struggling to hold on, Jesus will help you, because he has endured the cross for us.